Welcome to Platform Analytics Academy. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you once again for always joining. This is, as usual, this is information that is always for you. We try as best we can to bring fresh ideas and better understanding and practical guidance to using platform analytics and other things within the platform. So if this is information that you're curious about, you are definitely in the right spot. This information will be recorded, so you don't necessarily have to take notes. You can take them, but just know that you'll have this information later on today or early tomorrow morning. It will be out on our YouTube channel as well as out in the community. And please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. If you could put those in the Q&A rather than the chat, it would definitely help out. There are other panelists on the call that are monitoring that. And if they can answer the questions via type, then we'll do that. And also, if a question comes in that is relevant to where we are in the presentation, we love stopping and going ahead and getting that answered then. And then also any questions that you have that are unrelated to the content that we're covering today, those are welcome as well. Please feel free to ask those. And again, if they can be answered, someone on the panel will definitely do that. And if they can't be done via type and they need to be done live, then we'll get to those after we've answered all of the questions that is related to the content. So safe harbor notice. I don't necessarily know that there's anything in this that requires this, but we always like to make sure that we share it with you all. So again, please keep this in mind as you are listening to the content that is covered today, and make sure that no buying decisions or whatnot are made based off of this presentation. So my name is Thomas Davis, and I am a host and also presenter today. And I also have Isaac that is going to do some presentation demo as well. And as usual, I always have my coworkers, Tara, Dan, and Adam. I don't know that Adam is here yet, but he may come in. And I did notice that someone else came in, RJ. So I went ahead and promoted him. He is on our team as well. I don't have a picture for him, but he is here. And it's always great to have Robert Jean here as well. So I would think that there's some questions that he can answer as well. But thank you to all the panelists that are here. So today we're going to talk about function fields in reporting and show you some tips and tricks. If this is something that you're not familiar with, then it is a very powerful feature that we have added to reporting a couple releases ago, and we always are definitely adding new things to that. So quickly, what is a function field? So inside of reporting, a function field gives you the ability to take other fields and put constants on them and the functions on them to derive a different result and have that and be able to report on that. So, regular fields store a value in the database. A function field displays the results of a database query. So it's querying the table or whatnot, bringing that value together and representing that in the report. And there's also other ways that you can use those as well, which you'll see later on in the demos that Isaac is going to do. So function fields provide a simple to use and intuitive way for customers, report admins to perform calculations based on platform data. So things that may have had to been done, not all of the things can be fixed with a function field, but some of the things that maybe used to require creating a database view, now you can do those directly on the fly inside of the reporting. So what I want to do real quickly is just kind of talk about the function field operators that are supported. I know that this slide and the next few ones are quite wordy, and it's not really about reading those. This is more about reference and just kind of getting you to understand what you can do, especially if you're someone that's not familiar with functions, whether it be in old school SQL or wherever else. But just to kind of get you to understand some of the operators that are supported. So I'm just going to quickly touch base on all of these here. And again, like I said, I'm not going to read this verbatim because it's just too much to read and would bore all of you. And then I would see the number of attendees start to trickle off, and I don't want that. So real quickly, so like I said, the function fields are not stored in a database. They're calculated when you retrieve the data, and currently you can configure up to 20 active function fields on a report or per table, to use inside of reporting using the report designer. So real quickly, the operators. So add. So add is very simplistic, right? It's just taking two number fields as inputs and adding them together and returns a result on a field value. So for an example, here you can see that we're taking the child incident and the parent incident, and we just want to add and see how many are there. So let's say it returns 6, that would mean that maybe the incident has 5 child incidents and 1 parent. So simply it just adds those two together to give you an output of a number. Very simple. Concatenate, which is something that if you're familiar with SQL or whatnot, or other, types of coding languages, it just gives you the ability to bring 2 fields together and represent those in one field. So in this example, we're just taking the incident number and the short description, and we're going to output those into the same exact field. And you can see that we've done that. And all of these show, again, the glide function that you can use to in order to make these type of things different there for you. So the next one is date div. So this is going to take 2 date time fields as inputs and calculate the difference between the two and show what that is. So in this example, we just take the closed at and the sys created on, and it gives us a duration of those 2 times. So here the example result would be 10 days, 8 hours, 23 minutes, 11 seconds. So it's just taking those 2 and pump those out. So next we have day of week. So if this is something where you want to start or figure out where a result is based on a certain time of the day a week. So here you can take 2 arguments, a date field and a constant of either one. So let's say that the week starts on a Sunday, or if the week starts on a Monday, what is the results of that based on that? So in this example, we're saying, show me the resolve date where it's 1. So that means that Sunday is the start of the week. And if resolve at occurs on a Wednesday, returns a 4 if the integer is 1, and 3 if the integer is 2. So that basically means what day of the week did the resolved at occur. So it just gives a number. So here, if the date of the week starts at a 1 and it was resolved on that Wednesday, it's just letting you know it was the 4th day of the week. So it's just a whole number. So next, divide. So this is simple, just like the add. So it just takes 2 fields and basically does that division math. And in this case, it's saying that in this example, U number 2 and U number 1, and basically if it returns 5, if U number 2 was a 10 and U number 2 or U number 1 was a 2, then it's simple math. 2 or 10 divided by 2 equals 5, and it just shows that inside of a field. So again, very simplistic math there. Next, we have length. So this takes a string field as an input and calculates the field length in characters and returns those to a field value. So in this one, we want to say, what's the length of the short description? And it returns 37. If the short description was this application is performing a test, that basically is counting all of those characters, including the spaces, and telling you what that number of characters is. Again, very simplistic math. If it's something that someone is curious about, here's the way that you can actually do that inside of a report. So next is multiply. Again, one of those very basic math features. And it's basically just taking 2 numbers that it's pulled out. In this example, U number 1 is 8 and U number 2 is 6. And when you multiply those, it would obviously return a value of 48. So again, whatever the number is, you want to have, it needs to be a number field so it can actually do the math. If you did this on a string field that had characters in it, then it would obviously throw an error and wouldn't let you do that. And actually, when you're actually building out the function, it would tell you that that particular field wouldn't work. So the reporting designer itself building out the function field is intuitive enough to know that you've selected something that wouldn't particularly work with that type of math. And then subtract again. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask if you plan to cover report ranges in this session.
Unless part of it, part of it will be there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you, Isa. Thank you, Sarah. Next is subtract. Another one, very basic math. Again, in this case, it's taking U number 1 is 8 and U number 2 is 6, and it returns a 2. Very simple. So you have 2 different fields. You just want to do that simple math. That glide function is there to do that. So next is a substring. So this takes the text field and 2 numbers as input, returns the first instance of a string that starts at the position of the first whole number and is the length of the second. So in this example, it's saying short description, and it wants to get the field of where it starts on that count. So with character 7 is where it starts, but then it only wants to go 2 characters. So in that case, it pulls out go from going because the G is the 7th character, and then 2 characters from that and even counting that particular seventh one, it just pulls go out of that. So maybe if you have a text field where you want to pull out from a certain point and see what that value is, you can do that with a substring. Coalesce, so this takes any number of comma-separated fields as input and returns the first non-empty value. So in this case, we're looking at the closed at, the resolved at, and the sys updated on, and it basically wants to see, what is the first field that is not empty. So in this case, if the closed at was empty, then the function will return the value of the resolved on. If the resolved on was empty, then it would return the value of the sys updated on. So just a way to take some fields and look through all of those quickly and find the one that actually has a value in that. And then the last one that we'll talk about is the position. So this takes two fields and a whole number as an input and tells you what the particular value is at a certain position of the value that is in that. So an example here, if the value was short description, the field, the computer is performing an upgrade, but it's looking for an E, it's basically counted and it said, okay, E is where that particular value is in that position of the short description. So I don't know necessarily a use case offhand that would need this, but it's there and available, and Isaac or even Robert Jean or Dan or Tara may even talk about something that they're familiar with where using the position is something that is needed. So those are the operators that are supported. And I believe that there's another one that Isaac is actually going to talk about in his presentation. But really quickly, I just kind of want to show a couple examples of what something would look like. So here you can see that we're using the date div, and we just want to calculate resolve to open. And you can see here the glide function date div, and we put those particular fields in there. And then the results is the list view that you hear, and it's basically saying that particular one with the green box around it is saying 9 days from one to the other. But you can see here, and you'll see it a little bit more in the demo, is I have the label, I have what type of operator that I want to use, and then here it'll actually let you pick that particular operator, and then, or it shows, I'm sorry, this is the return type of what we want it to return as, and then you can select the operator, and then it actually lets you select those particular fields. And here you can see that the syntax is correct for this function. So if you remember earlier, I was talking about where if you were using an operator that was looking for two fields that had a numeric value in that, and you selected a field that didn't have that in that, then that syntax, it would tell you that that's not going to work. So nice built-in feature there that it's looking at that syntax to know whether or not it's right or wrong. So this is a very basic one here that I've just shown an example of. And then next we have, so here I want to take the short description, and I just want to know what the length of that is. And again, I've gave it a label, and I've told the kind of return value, I want a whole number, and I selected the fields in there. And here you can say that this is, it has 20. So 20 characters, again, including the spaces that are in that particular short description. Maybe that's important for something, but again, it does give you the ability to actually do that. And knowing that it's looking for characters, this syntax works. So that pretty much would work probably for anything. And Isaac, you can correct me on that when you start talking, but if there's values inside of a field, it's going to count those. And then the next one that we have is, how do I bring two fields together? We talked about the concatenate and being able to do that. And here you can see that I labeled it, and the value is going to be a text, and the operator and the field. So the operator I selected was concatenate, and the field I selected was number for incident number and short description. And you can see here that I went ahead and threw in a slash here to separate those. So that way, when you're actually reading it, you can see it. So here you can see the results. So now I have the number field and the short description field, but I brought those both together. So maybe rather than having to display both of them individually, you could just choose to display this. So with that, those were some very basic, and again, just kind of talking about the different operators that are out there. But the tips and tricks that we kind of want to show you is where Isaac is going to come in. So Isaac is going to demo and show us some other very powerful ways that you can use the function fields that you create inside of the reporting UI. So with that, Isaac, unless we have a question, Tara, Dan, do we need to answer?
We're good.
Looks like Isaac's going to answer them all live. So Isaac, if you want to go ahead and share and go ahead and do what you got to do.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Isaac. Okay, I think you can see the correct.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Okay, so as Thomas mentioned, function fields are very powerful. We created them, I think, 2 years ago. I think it was Orlando, the release. We introduced them in the reporting, but in the platform, they existed two releases before that. And there is a small distinction we need to make. So as I said, admins can create function fields from the dictionary, which is not the most beautiful or intuitive UI to create a function field. But because of the value that function fields bring to customers, we decided to bring it in the reporting engine. So I'm going to go to the report. So this is based on the incident table. And here under configure, we added this button, configure function field. In order to be able to see this button, there are two roles. Either you are an admin of the platform, or you are a function field admin, as we call it. And this is the role you can give to the people you would like to be able to create function fields. As Thomas mentioned earlier, for function field admins, we have a limitation in this UI to create up to 20 function fields per table, and 20 not for themselves, because the fields that you create here, they are being used widely from everyone in the company. Everyone can use it as they want to. So hence we created that limitation, because people can start creating hundreds of millions based on every single report that they have. But most of the times when a function field is created, it covers quite a lot of use cases. Hence we have that limitation. Of course, admins can always create as many function fields as they want. But if they reach the limit of 20, they will not be able to use this UI. They'll have to do it from the dictionary. And I will walk you through these two different ways of how you can do that. Now, since I have the role, I just click configure function field. Here on the left, you will see a list of all the current function fields created on this table. And of course, we have a search functionality if you have more than 20, which searches even in the script that you're using to define in the definition of the function field, sorry. So as you can see, I can just write the field and it filters directly to all the fields that are relevant to what I wrote, or even on the definition. Or I can say, for example, resolve that, and then I can see which function fields are using this specific field. Now, I will try to create one so that we can go through the process. A label, which is pretty straightforward. Let's call it duration field. Academy. Now, the return type. So these are all the different types that you can define as a function field. We try to give them more of a real live names instead of all the technical details, like, for example, the date, which is the glide date in our platform, or the daytime, which is glide daytime. So we try to make them a bit easier, and also to give an example of how the outcome would look here on the right, so that you'll know what to expect as an outcome when you define something. So I will create a
question for you. Well, because you just pointed out the date and time. So can you do a calculation between those two, or do they both have to be date, or they both have to be date and time?
What kind of calculation would you like to
the
create
date
between diff? Date diff? To be honest, I didn't try it, but I believe it will work, because it will take as a date the 0000 as time.
Okay, so it would just, okay, cool.
Yeah. Because the date doesn't contain time, right? So the duration will have to be calculated. Yeah.
So it should work.
Yes. We can give it a try, of course. So I created the duration, and now the operations. So this is what Thomas was mentioning. This is the complete list of all the different operators we support at the moment. It says add, concat, day diff with a bit of text and also examples so that how it can be defined. And in our case, we'll use day diff because we want to calculate the duration. And then as you can see, instantly the moment you select the operation, the syntax is always being evaluated. And on the right side, we have all the fields that you can use the incident table. So for example, I can pick up the results time. Here, you might need to use your keyboard or your mouse just to move on the second part of the formula that we are creating. And the second field should be the OpenTat, for example. And the moment you create them, if the syntax is correct, then you click save, the function field is created. And as it says the message on top, if you want to reuse this field on this specific incident, you'll have to refresh your browser. So I will do it. And now I'm going to add this new function field that I just created in my list. Second duration field. Okay, duration field Academy. Okay, and I will add it in the list. Now we'll start seeing the executor report. So this is the field that we just created, right? The duration field in Academy. So function fields can be used as any other type of field. So you can group by with them. We can search with them. A bit of a note here, if you try to search on a function field, because it doesn't exist in the database and it is being calculated, it is not indexed, so it will be really slow, especially when you try to search through millions of records. So just be very careful on that side. Now, to answer one of the first questions about performance. So the reason, I think I caught up a bit, I mentioned it quickly earlier. Performance is not affected because the data are being retrieved from the database and the calculation is done on the database level. So there is nothing in between that interferes. So the calculation is almost instant. And with in the test that we did with, I think it was 50 million records or something like that, the performance was in milliseconds. It affected the performance in milliseconds. So it was really insignificant. Of course, if you try to create 2,000 or 3,000, for example, records, yeah, that can increase, but that will increase a bit more the time, but it shouldn't have any effect. Hence the limitations that we had. Another part of the limitations that we have is that for function field admins, so people that use this UI to create function fields, we do not allow .works. So at the moment, if I try to add a .work, for example, in let me recreate quickly. This result that of course here I didn't mention you can always, if you love typing, you can always type it. No one is going to say no. But if I want to, for example, .work here to say I want to pick up from the assignment group.sys created on, as you can see, the moment I put the dot, you get a message that .works are not supported. But if you are an admin, you are allowed to create .works, but from the dictionary entry. The main reason is performance. And this also comes back to the question that Flavio asked. I mean, in general, function fields shouldn't create a problem. But if you start adding multiple dot walks here, every dot walk that you add is like adding a join in the database, and that can delay the process. That's why we left it is only up to the admins to define such fields, at least for now, because we're working on it to create something that will not have this effect and will be able to provide the functionality for all users to use dot walks in the future. Now, we created the field. Yes. So far in performance analytics, especially when you create an indicator and you wanted to use the result time, you always had to create a script. And for that, for example, I'll bring you an example that we have here that we provide out of the box. It's the sum duration of resolved incidents. And as you can see here, we are using a script, and the script looks like this. Let me open the record. So, and what it does at the end of the day, it just does the resolve that minus open that, and it returns the result, which is more or less similar to what function fields do. But here you'll have to write the script. So that is one part, the scripting part. Well, some of us might like to write scripts, but well, it's not that easy and it requires quite a lot of technical knowledge. But if you compare that script with just clicking here, I think it would be much easier to configure a function field. And then what you can do actually is to come to performance analytics and create the indicator or update your indicators by using the new fields that you created. So we called it earlier. I have to refresh because we just created a field. Duration field Academy. And this is as simple as creating an indicator on any field that pre-existed. Now, this answered that question. I remember there are two more things that I need to answer, so I'll go back to the list and I'm going to filter here the function fields. And here I have a bar. So I created earlier a report on my own function field, but now I will change it to duration field Academy, which we just generated. I will click run. As you can see here, the report ranges are applicable even here. And that will answer the question to Karen, if I remember correctly. So this way you are using the default ones because the field was just created, but you can define your own report ranges for the field, and then this is the report ranges that you will see. Performance and now, okay. Now we go to the question, the $1 million. One thing I didn't mention. Give me a second. So I just saved the field. I will go back to our report and I will show you. Okay, so this is the field that I just created. But as you can imagine, sometimes I can create something and later on change my mind and I would like to delete it. For function field admins, we do not give the option to delete a field, but we give them the option to deactivate it. So the moment you create a field, you deactivate it. So all it does, it just goes to the dictionary and sets the active to false. The moment you click deactivate, we do a check. So because, as I mentioned, everyone in the platform can see the field that was just created, and everyone can use it in any type of report. So what we do is when this field is used in any type of report, we give this error, this warning, where you can actually see which reports are using this specific field. So that if you would really deactivate the field, then those reports will not work correctly anymore. So that's a way for that we provided so that people do not just deactivate any field. Now, you can deactivate, if you're not an admin, only fields that you created. So if Thomas or Robert Jan or Tara or Dan creates a field, I will not be able to deactivate it if I'm not admin. They will be able to deactivate their own fields. That's also another safeguard that we added. There is a second limitation that we had when we implemented this UI, which was the database use. And I think this might be related to a question that came earlier. So initially, when database use did not support function fields, but the platform, I think it was last release, if I'm not wrong, they implemented the support of database views and function fields. So now you can view the values of the function fields in the database view, and you can even do calculations. So that was added. And the now question. Yes. So this is only for admins, what I'm going to show you, because our UI does not understand now, or now in quotes. So now I'm going to take you to, well, I created this report. Maybe I can use it. Let me take you to it. Let's create a new report on task table, and we can use the field that I created earlier. This is on task. And now in the columns, second, I literally don't remember how I called my field. It was duration now. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to save this report, and now you're going to see how it is defined. So now it can be used, and it returns the current date and time. Okay. And the only tricky part is because this was added after we created this UI, you will not be able to create it from the reports. But if you go to dictionary, you can, as you can see here, for example, you can add it, and then it will work correctly. But you will not be able to edit it from the UI. That's something that is in our backlog to fix. And what it does, actually, as you can see here, what I did is just to calculate the duration between now and this is created on. So as you can see here, for all the fields that I have, all the records that I have on the task table, the time is calculated. Now, if I click run again, you will see the time changes. So every time you click run, because the calculation is done again, the numbers that you see will change. So keep that in mind, because that's what now is there for, right? Admins have the possibility to deactivate any fields from anyone. They are admins. The only people that cannot deactivate is the function field admins, which is a separate role. And these are the people that are allowed to see the button here in the UI so that they can create their own function fields. These people with this role will not be able to create or deactivate fields from other function field admins or admins. I hope this answers your question, Sherry. I'm going through the questions. Now, the one thing that I didn't mention is that the function fields, they are working on the record level, and they are working on how things are stored in the database, okay? So if you have a choice field, we are storing the number in the database. We don't store the text. So if you try to use that part, you will get only the number that is stored in the database. So please be aware of it. And the second thing that you need to be aware of is the dates. The dates, we store them in the database always in UTC, right? And then it is being converted to when the data is being retrieved to the user's time zone. So be careful if you try to pick up in a function field a value from the database, you might have this inconsistency of what you expect to see, which is the user time zone, versus what we store, which is the UTC. There are ways to bypass that by adding or multiplying numbers, but I will not go into that now. Just be aware that when you retrieve numbers, it's always in UTC, okay? Chris,
so just for
yes.
some I think there was a couple that you have selected that you're going to answer live, but you may have already done those. You just need to clear those off. So you kind of talked about dot walk-in and how it's not available except for admin, and Chris kind of talked, he asked a question a little bit more specific to that. So I'll read this and maybe we can decipher what we can do here. So really specific field on a specific record. The example is to calculate the license cost of a server using the cost field of the software asset record times number of CPU scores or cores per server CI. So that sounds like multiple tables, and maybe we can unmute Chris so we can give a little bit more clarity, unless Isaac, you understand what he's asking there.
I understand what he's asking. What I don't know is if these two fields are on different tables. The only way to achieve it is to create a DB view that will link these two, and then you can multiply the fields. If they are on the same table, then you don't need a database view. So you can do it directly as I just demonstrated. You can just come to the configure function field and create a new field that will just be a number. And then you can say multiply, and you select the two fields from the list, and you will get your answer. Is there a way to have...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm Chris. Chris, let me know. Just type back if that answers your question or not, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead, Tara.
No, Isaac was just about to answer. Oh, the question disappeared. Where'd it go? Oh, I think it was Muriel and Lena.
Muriel, I can still see it.
Yeah, they have the same question.
So the question is, yes.
Go ahead.
If there is a way to have age and duration now, so only the days. Yes, that is possible. You can do it in the next experience UI. So when you create reports in the next experience, you can define and the format, even I think even in this UI, you can do it, but I don't have the correct roles. You can define if you want to display the duration in hours or in days or in anything you want to see them. So you will be able to get it. Of course, the calculation will always give you every single, even the milliseconds if you want, but you will be able to change the format of it. Will these fields get passed to API calls? Holly, these fields are just like any other fields. They exist in the dictionary. So yes, I would say, but I will put also a question mark if there is anything, I don't know. In theory, all the API calls are done based on the fields we currently have. So the moment you send your API request, the value that was calculated at that moment will be used. So yes, they are available of API calls. I am 99.99% sure, but I leave just 1% because I didn't try, to be honest. When a function field is deactivated, does that mean it is deleted as well? No, it is not deleted. So what happens when I deactivate a function field is just comes to the dictionary record and it unchecks the active and it saves it, which means that from that moment onward, this field is not calculated, it's not visible in any list, or it's not even being retrieved from the database. The reason why we didn't want to allow people to delete the sys dictionary is something that this update will come into an update set, as you know, because every dictionary change comes into the update set, and users that create reports do not know anything about update sets and how things are transferred from one instance to another. One thing that I didn't mention earlier, in order to understand which fields are function fields in the database, except, of course, of having the function field check, is we named all of them with u_reporting_ and then the name of that you provided. So that, you know, whatever starts with u_RPT is always a function field that was created from us.
And Isaac, since we're on that topic, do the deactivated functions count against the 20 max per table?
No, they do not. No. And then we should be able to get business duration as well, just by using the glide function for it, right? Just wanted to confirm. Well, that is a bit tricky now. The problem is that function fields are created to retrieve the data from the database directly. Business duration requires a calendar next to it, which we don't have that available when we try to retrieve with one single SQL statement from the database the data. So business duration is not going to work with function fields. If you want business duration, you'll need to calculate it on the glide side, not with a function field, I'm afraid. And Mike. Hello, Mike. Have there been any improvements regarding supporting function field and currency fields, or do earlier limits continue to apply? No, at the moment, they still apply. Mike, we do have the limitations on the currency fields as they were. Yeah, but this is something, as I said, we are trying to find out a way to move to a different model from the function fields. So the ideal scenario was not to have to create dictionary entries. So that's something we are evaluating how we can achieve it without creating dictionary entries, but be accessible everywhere. I think this was the last question that I saw.
Yep. There's none currently. Isaac, were you done with demos?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. So we do have about 18 minutes left. So if there's any questions that anyone has, please feel free to ask those. What I'll do real quick is kind of
I'm going to ask a question.
Sure.
All right.
You can ask a hard one.
Well, we're kind of going back and forth offline here about the now function. And I must have looked away for a split second because I didn't hear you talk about it. Did you talk about the now function, Isaac?
Yes, the now function is supported.
Okay.
Yes, but because, as I said, the UI has not been updated yet to understand it so that people can use it from the report directly using the configure function field. But admins can go directly to SysDictionary and use it.
Okay. So there's a back-end way.
Yeah. So to clarify,
Yes.
it's not reported. It's not supported in reporting function and the reporting UI,
Yes.
but it is supported in. Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. That's what I wanted to make sure. So I can't use the now function inside of my function here in the report UI. Yeah.
So
if you create it, just if I can share a bit my screen, maybe
sorry.
it will clear a bit of. So
That's
as you
when it
can
comes
see,
up
I
a lot,
created
yeah.
this function field. I created from the dictionary, but now when I open it from the reporting UI, because now is not understood, it gives me an error that there is an error. So I cannot update it from here, but it works perfectly. So that's something just that the API of now was added, the support of now was added a bit towards the end of the release, so we couldn't update the UI to understand this.
So are you saying that it will work if I just add it here in the function in the report UI? It'll just show that there's an error.
Well, it
will not allow you to save it. You will have to.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So it has to be created at the table level.
Yes, on the dictionary itself.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, good. That's good clarification.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Mike, I know you had a question about that specifically in the chat. So I hope that gives you a little bit more information because I thought it was available through the UI. I misunderstood that. Okay. Thank you.
Now I see a question if it is possible to have a function field that will calculate average age of the tickets. As I mentioned, function fields work on the record level. They don't work on the total number of records that you have in your filter. For those use cases, yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's like record level calculations. For the aggregates, that's something that you could actually use performance analytics to do your calculations with a formula.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing again, Thomas.
Okay,
Sorry for
that'll work.
away.
And what I want to do real quick is just kind of move this. I hate when it puts it there. Put it over here. Just real quick, and Isaac, you have alluded to some of these. I don't know if you talked to all of them, but there are some limitations. So just real quickly, I just want to read through these so everybody understands. So function fields are not currently supporting the database views. Isaac talked about that in the reporting UI. The platform does support function fields and database views, but the reporting UI does not. References of a function field in another function field is not possible. So if you create one and then try to add it into another one, it's not going to work there either. Function fields cannot be encrypted. They cannot be indexed. The function fields cannot be converted to normal fields. They are function fields. That's the way that they'll read out. And again, like I said, the number of function fields per table is limited to 20. Unless you're an admin, then you can create those at the table level of the dictionary. And again, uses of .walk is not allowed for report admin due to performance issues. Admins are able to use .walks. Are there any other limitations, Isaac, that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
No, these are all. I tried to catch up on all of them, so this is the summary. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, good.
Hey, on that, real quick on that now function, is that going to be available in the next release through the UI?
That I do not know. That's
Okay.
something we have to ask our PMs. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
RJ, do you have any thoughts on the question
I was
that
going to
Tara
say,
just
is
had?
Robert John? Yeah, I was going to say, is Robert John still on the call here?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the question, and but I do not know the answer. So we indeed need to check with the PMs on what's the status there.
Okay. Safe harbor, right? Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I thought Isaac said database views do support function fields. So is there's some confusion there?
No, there's no confusion. It's just platform supported, just the reporting UI does not.
Right.
So in the reporting UI, you cannot configure a function field on the database view, but then as an admin using the dictionary, you can create a function field and do a calculation between fields of different tables, because that's what database views are all about.
Hopefully, Dima, that gives some clarity there. Okay, so how much time do we have here? About 11 minutes. So if there are any other questions about anything at this point, or again, the function fields, please ask, or we'll get done a little early today. Dan, Terry, y'all usually have some really great scenarios in your pocket. Anything that you could think of that you want to add to this?
Not right now.
No, good discussion. Thank you, Isaac. Really appreciate it.
Reporting.
Like Holly's coming in with the question right now.
Okay, Holly.
Holly. We got time.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Would you prefer to be unmuted?
Off mute.
Either. Okay, well, you're in here twice, Holly, so I don't know which one that you, let's see if that one works. Go ahead, Holly. You can speak unless it's the other one. Try the other one. Okay, Holly, try. You can talk.
Yep, that one was it.
There you go.
Hey,
Hey, Holly,
I have a really odd question, and hopefully somebody on here has had this issue. So we have HTML fields on forms, right? And if you set it to be a mandatory, somebody can take their space bar and put like 4 or 5 spaces in it and override your mandatory. And I don't know if this is new from the new Polaris, but it's been noticed recent.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a field on the form that is mandatory to fill out,
And it's an
rather than them
HTML.
actually typing something in it, they could just put spacebar and get past the mandatory part of it.
Yeah, it takes about 4, maybe 5 spaces.
And that might be good to raise a case on our high support to see if that might be a defect or not, because it depends. Is it on one table or is it across different tables where we have HTML field?
It's across the board.
Yeah, I understand your expectation would be at least what is written there to be HTML, right? At least. But yeah, I don't know the answer. I think a question on a case on our support.
Yeah, because if you put 1 or 2
clarify
spaces, it doesn't do it. But if you get 4 or 5, then it's like done.
I mean, almost in a way, I'm almost impressed that someone had the diligence to actually try that.
We have really smart users.
Or sneaky users.
Yeah. If they can get around something, they'll find it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think also that Josh Cooper put something in the chat. I don't know if everybody's looking at it, but I think he's right. So typically the answer is then to retrain the person who filled out the form, or it's got something in the form, so it's technically meeting the mandatory condition. But if it's service desk worker, you'd want to retrain them. If it's a request, then you could cancel it. I guess the question is how often that it's happening. Is it the same users, or so. Because what I'm kind of curious about is if you've had multiple users figure out that it's 4 or 5 space bars to get beyond it, or is it just like 1 or 2 that keep doing it?
So this is our incident request form for end users out in our main, the 6,000 people that can get to it, right? And quite a few times I don't believe it's the same person, but the help desk will complain. We got one without a description. They got around it, and I don't know if one person figured it out and they're telling everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically you could put like what Raymond is saying too. Like they have sneaky workarounds as well. It's putting a period in. Looks like there's just different ways to get around it to trick it, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like doing implementations. That was actually one of the things that I always talked about was that you can't you end up in kind of like this perpetual state of, you can require it to be longer than a certain number of characters, but, eventually they'll type that in. You can require it to match words in a dictionary, but, that doesn't stop them from just typing in whatever. Basically, the only way you can really stop it is just either start throwing away, closing those incidents that aren't filled out correctly, or, or retraining those people. Something that forces them. It's the expression that we used to use was don't try to solve in script what you should solve in policy. Just because, like I said, it's a never ending cycle. For the HTTP field the HTML field, you could require that URL to be, it's not even a URL. It's just allows images and things like that. I was gonna say you could require it to start with HTTP. And if it doesn't, then it's not a real URL, but that's not necessarily what's in that field anyway. Yeah, like I said, it just becomes a never-ending cycle of they can trick it. They're not giving you real information. It's like, well, you didn't give me enough information to open the incident, so we're just going to close it.
Hope that helps, Holly.
Yeah, I know it's not the answer you want.
Well, I just couldn't imagine how people were getting past it. And then I started testing and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. They're just hitting the space bar a bunch.
Yep. Yeah. Since it's a mandatory field, all it's really checking for is that they put anything in there. Cause it's, space bar works, periods. I would see a ton of, just period, but yeah, it's a problem that comes up for a lot of customers.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Lena, I answered to your question. You're right about the date diff. We subtract them in one specific way. So when you do your test, you need to put the oldest the result at first, and they create it as a second value so that you can get the results correctly.
So the one from Lena, is that what you just answered, or are you getting ready to answer that?
Yes, that's the one. There were two parts, so I wrote also to Lena, but I also responded live so that everyone can hear it. So the order that you use in subtract, for example, it's more or less the same as date diff, because you just subtract two dates. Has to be in a certain way. It's like saying 5 minus 3 or 3 minus 5. You get different results depending on the order.
Okay, and Josh has that one. So Dima, maybe you're asking to be unmuted here. Let me. Okay, Dima, go ahead. You should be able to talk.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
So yeah, I wanted to make a comment. Isaac said that in the new UI, you're looking for a way how to create a function field without having it in a dictionary that is visible to everyone else. I actually find that there would be more trouble. You know, you have to worry about somebody deleting it or turning it off. I think a function field should be per report. This way, it's specific for that report. It's just on that report and calculates right there on the fly. There's really no need to tie it to a dictionary, and you might have a different use case of that field, and you don't have the limit of 20. You know, any reporting tool can do this, and it has been doing it for years. And currently, this function field is a nice idea, but it is so limited, has so little use. Anyway, so I'm thinking in the new UI, maybe you're overthinking it. It's just my opinion. Just keep the function field on the report itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right, Dima. That was one of our ideas as well. But and this is what we want to get to be able to have them per report. But we don't want also to remove the functionality that we currently have, that certain type of calculations are available for all users in the platform. So I think, and
well, yeah,
since we are under safe harbor, we can say that we'll have both worlds available at some point.
Yeah, so, that would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice to have one field that is commonly used and it could be reused everywhere, then have it on the database view. But I might have something really, really weird calculation. If you guys allow us to do weird calculations, maybe function of a function, you know, where you get some substring of the string and you can do something with that number. Where a lot of other tools allow that. I'm sorry?
Yes, Dima, that part you can do. What you cannot do is reference, because everything is calculated at the same time. You cannot refer, you can use 2 or 3 operators, but you cannot use the function field from one to another. You can recreate it actually in your script and then you'll get it, right? So I'm not sure if I'm clear. So you can get the duration and add, I don't know, 24 hours to it. And instead of using the duration that you already calculated. So you can create a new field that will do the calculation that you would like to.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a feature that's been needed for a long time, and there are still quite a few limitations. And it would be nice to see some improvements in that space. We've used a little bit of it. It comes in handy. This now option is really, really good. We'll have to test it out, but still there are quite a few limitations compared to any other reporting tools. So well, hopefully we'll see some more improvements.
Yes, you will. Thank you for your feedback, Dima.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are at the top of the hour, and real quick, Isaac, Lena, I think that may be a follow-up question. Yeah. Okay, so you're going to type that out.
Yes, it is. So just try to use first the result date, the maximum date, and then as a second parameter, the date that is smaller, so that you can get the the duration that you expect, because as you said, there is no negative duration.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just to be conscious of everybody's time, if we didn't get to your question, please ask that in the community and tag any one of us, and we'll get to that. To that for you. So again, make sure you check out our community page. This information will be out there later on this evening or early tomorrow morning. And it will be on the particular page for the academies. Check out our pro tips, quick hitter videos, 3, 4, 5 minute videos to kind of help you in your journey. Make sure that you utilizing Now Learning. Again, in this example, I just searched analytics and many things came back. So use that. The PA Advanced on-demand course or PA Advanced is now on demand. So check that out. This are sister academies that are out there. So if any of these topics interest you, check those out as well. You saw the video. So knowledge is coming up and little over, I think 6 weeks or under 6 weeks, somewhere around that. So a lot of us that are on the call will be there. So we'd love to see any of you all. And we do have some sessions as well, some labs. And with that, thank you. And thank you to everyone that joined, the panelists and all the ones that we promoted and didn't know that we were going to promote them. Josh, RJ, thanks for helping answer questions. And of course, always Dan, Tara, and Isaac, thank you for the time. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.